hope you boys are ready for a Parsha story, because I have got some really nice stories for today. But first, we have to sing our song. Are you ready? Singing voices on. Let's go. Devarim ba'eschanon Eikev ra'ei and shoiftim kiseitze kisa vainatzavim vayelech ha'azinu and v'zais habracha. Today we are learning this week's parsha, which is called Eikev. Parshas Eikev. Now the word Eikev is an interesting name for the name of a parsha, because Eikev means heel. Does anybody know what a heel is? The heel is the back of your foot. Exactly. That hard back part of your foot. That's called a heel. Why would Hashem have chosen the name of this week's parsha to be called heel? I'll tell you why. Hashem had lots of good reasons, but this is the reason we're going to learn. If there's something lying on the floor and you're walking around and you see something on the floor and you see it's shimmery and shiny, what would you do? You would bend down to pick it up to see what it is. But what if it looked like a broken piece of an oti or a crumb of something on the floor? Would you bend down and pick it up? Most people wouldn't. Most people would just step over it, even step on it with their heel, because they would say, "Pah, that's not anything important." And they would just step over it with the heel of their foot. Hashem tells us in this week's parsha, there is not a single mitzvah that is not important. Every single mitzvah is important. Every single mitzvah is shiny and sparkly. We must not step over any mitzvahs, even if it seems like it is the smallest mitzvah and we don't understand it at all and nobody can explain it to us and we think, oh, that's just silly. No such thing. Every single mitzvah is precious, precious, precious. Even when you see someone and you give them a smile, that is a precious mitzvah. Even though it's no energy for you to do that, it's not hard, it doesn't cost anything, we don't have to make anything or do anything, it's just a smile. That smile is a mitzvah. From the smallest mitzvah to the biggest mitzvah, they are all precious and they all help to build the Beis HaMikdash. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu tells us in this week's parasha some amazing things that happened in the Midbar. And the reason why Moshe tells us these things that happened in the Midbar is to remind us about how much Hashem loves us. Always, even when we don't feel it, even if we locked at home with Corona, or we want to have arrangements with our friends and we can't, or we're not feeling well, or somebody we love is not feeling well, or any problem that we have, our bike is broken, whatever it is, Hashem loves us and Hashem is with us. One of the amazing things that happened in the Midbar is that even though they traveled for 40 years in the desert, that is a very, very, very long time, nobody ever needed to make new clothes. Their clothes never got old or torn. They never got dirty or sweaty or smelly. They never got too small for them. They never got worn out. As the children grew, their clothes grew with them. As they traveled, the clothes stayed clean and beautiful and fresh and neat no matter what happened. Isn't that amazing? Hashem knew. Bnei Israel are in the Midbar. There's no clothes shops in the desert. Where are they going to get new clothes? And to have to sit and sew clothes will be very difficult for the moms while they're traveling. So Hashem said, I will not have anyone have to suffer with having to make new clothes or having to wear clothes that are too small, because Hashem loves us. Now, Bnei Israel are finally going to go into Eretz Israel. Israel is called the land of milk and honey. It is just the most beautiful country in the entire world. And Hashem blessed Eretz Yisrael with being a land of milk and honey, and also with 7 special things that grow in Eretz Yisrael. These are called the Shivas Haminim. Do you remember our song of the Shivas Haminim? We didn't sing it for such a long time. Wheat and barley, grapes and figs, pomegranates, olives and dates. These are the Shivas Haminim. Wheat and barley. Are you singing with me? Grapes and figs, pomegranates, olives and dates. These are the Shivas Haminim. They are special foods, special in Eretz Yisrael. They grow absolutely beautifully. And in Meretz Hashem, we will all get there and we will all get to enjoy the Shivas Haminim. Now, when we went into Eretz Yisrael, we were strangers in Eretz Yisrael, right? We didn't know our way around. We didn't know where anything was. We just got there. We were strangers. How do you think somebody feels when they just arrive in a new place and they have to somehow manage, and they have to plant, and they have to get food, and they have to make things, and they have to collect everything they need? It's a little bit difficult when you can't phone your mom and say, Mommy, this is what I need, and Mommy, can you help me with this? And it's very hard when we're a stranger on our own in a place. So in this week's parasha, we have a very special mitzvah to remember that we were strangers when we came to Eretz Yisrael. And anybody who is a stranger, not anybody who's a stranger, but anybody who's a stranger who joins Bnei Yisrael, who becomes a Jew, we have to be extra kind to them. Somebody who is a ger, who is a convert, is so special. It's the way we were when we first went into Eretz Yisrael after being in the Midbar for 40 years. So we have a special mitzvah in this week's parasha to be kind to a ger, to a stranger. Obviously, it doesn't mean becoming friends with the strangers on the street, but anyone who becomes Jewish. Now, we are going to read a story about the Shivas Haminim. The Schwartz family was so excited. They were waiting for very important visitors. Uncle Zev and Aunt Rachel were coming from America. It was so exciting. The Schwartz children could not wait to have their special visitors from overseas. They sat and they waited, counting down the minutes. In America, there's so many nice things, said Chani, with a happy look in her eyes. Stationery and toys and books, clothes. And there's all sorts of yummy food that we don't get here in Eretz Yisrael, Moshe said. Avi, who did not like eating, said, America has the best food. I wish I could live there. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. The children ran to the door and opened it and found their smiling aunt and uncle. The children led them to the table where Mother had prepared cold drinks and fruit and cake. As soon as Aunt Rachel saw the fruit, she said, "Oh, fruit from Eretz Yisrael! I'm so excited!" "What?" the children said in surprise. "Do you mean that the fruits in Eretz Yisrael are better than the fruits in America?" "Of course," laughed Aunt Rachel. "Their taste is much sweeter and they are so much juicier. Didn't you know? Many countries even buy fruits from Eretz Yisrael and send it all the way to their countries." The children were suddenly starting to feel lucky that they were able to enjoy the special fruits as much as they wanted. Moshe and Abby reached for the red apples, but Uncle Zev stopped them. "There are grapes on the table," he said. "Grapes are part of the Shivas Haminim. We must make a bracha on the grapes first, because they are more important." "I know what the Shivas Haminim are," Chani said happily. "We learnt about it in school." In Hebrew, the Shivas Haminim are called Chita, Sa'ira, Gethin, Ta'ena, Rimmon, Zeis Shemin, and Devash. Beautiful, Aunt Rachel and Uncle Zev and Mother said together, and they passed around a plate of grapes for everyone to enjoy. Now there's another special mitzvah that we learn in this week's parasha. This mitzvah is all about eating. You would think it's strange to have a mitzvah about eating, but remember, not to Eikev any of the mitzvahs. We don't step over or ignore any of the mitzvahs. This mitzvah is that when we eat, we need to have proper derech eretz. We don't take the food and no ways, no ways. Maybe when we could do that, but now that we're big, definitely not. We sit at a table, we use our knife and fork, we put the food carefully into our mouth. If there's mess on the floor, if we spill something, we clean it up. Before we eat, we must remember to say a bracha. I hope you all enjoyed the brachas videos that you got today. And when we finish eating, we need to bench. Now the benching that we did in school, that first part of the benching, that bracha was written by Moshe Rabbeinu. How special that we say his words every time we bench. Let's read a story about benching. Sitting around the table, the whole family ate and drank. Said Mother as we were finished, the time has come to thank. All the delicious food in the world comes from Hashem above, who takes care of his children with absolute love. Mommy hands out the benches, and we children look inside. Birkas Hamazon, said with kavana, gives Hashem lots of pride. Rabbi Ephraim's class, the children were taught to bench while they were reading from a siddur. At first they were so excited. They followed along as they read, their fingers moving from word to word, careful to say each word correctly. But slowly, as time went on, they got used to the benching and they sometimes forgot to look inside the siddur. Their eyes would wander around the classroom, sometimes even out the window. One day, as all the boys had finished eating their sandwiches, Rabbi Ephraim said, before we say Birkas Hamazon today, I want to tell you a story. A story? We love stories, the boys said. They all sat up straight and listened closely to the Rebbe. Many years ago, there lived a man who did many, many mitzvahs. He was a very rich man, and many people would come to ask him for tzedakah. The man was so happy, and he was always warm and friendly to everyone who came. He would give them food and drink, and after they had eaten, he would give them however much money they needed. The rich man always remembered that everything he had came from Hashem. All the food that he had, he so happily shared with others, because it was actually not his. It belonged to Hashem. Every time he benched, he would bench with lots of kavanah, concentrating on each word so much that he did not even notice what was happening around him. One morning, just as the rich man began benching, 3 important rabbonim, who were going around collecting tzedakah for a mitzvah, arrived at his house, hoping that the rich man would be kind to them as well. The 3 rabbonim were tired and hungry from traveling for a long time. They came to the entrance and saw the door was open. The rich man was sitting with his back to them at his table. The rabbonim waited for him to turn around, but the man did not move. They waited and they waited, but he sat in the same position. He did not pay any attention to them. How long should we wait? They whispered to each other. Maybe the rich man doesn't want people to come today. The rabbonim began to get upset. They wanted to turn around to leave, but just then the rich man finished benching and he suddenly noticed them there. He ran to them and said, "Forgive me, I did not notice that you were here. I was busy speaking to Hashem. Please come inside and sit down. A delicious meal will be brought to you right away. The Rabbonim were amazed at how special this rich man was. When they finished eating and drinking, they gave him a bracha, and they davened that he would be given a long life full of brachas. The man gave them a lot of tzedakah, and he told them to come back whenever they needed anything. The boys in Rabbi Ephraim's class enjoyed the story very much. Just as they were about to begin benching, the Rebbe told them, "You are now going to be speaking to Hashem. How lucky is that? Remember to say each word clearly and with lots of kavanah." The children understood that just like the rich man, they too were speaking right to Hashem. They realized that it was an absolute honor that they had. Each boy looked inside his siddur, and the whole class said Birkas Hamazon out loud, remembering to say thank you to Hashem for all the good that he does. Have a beautiful Shabbos, boys.